us finish section 11.1, which is derivatives of power, sums, and constant multiples by starting with example 7. We want to differentiate s of x equals x plus 7 over the square root of x. First, we should rewrite s of x as x plus 7 over x to the 1/2, but that's going to make this equal to x plus 7 times x to the negative 1/2. So we've rewritten it, now we can differentiate. So the derivative of x is 1 plus the derivative of 7x to the negative 1/2 is 7. Use your power rule, so it's negative 1/2 x raised to the negative 1/2 minus 1, and that gives us 1 plus negative 7/2, because 7 times negative 1/2 is negative 7/2, times x raised to the negative 3/2. Well, we can rewrite that as 1 minus 7 over 2, the square root of x cubed, or we can write that as 1 minus 7 divided by 2, x, the square root of x. Because here, and aside, the square root of x cubed is equal to the square root of x times x squared. The square root of x squared is x, and then that leaves the square root of x under there. Okay, now let's find the derivative of the function a equals 4 pi r squared. This means we need to take the derivative of a with respect to r. So now we have 8 pi r. And note that that comes from doing the following. You have 4 pi as your constant, and then you take the derivative of r squared is 2r to the 2 minus 1. So then you have 4 times 2 will give you your 8. So you have 8 pi r, which is the same thing as that. All right, now we want to find the equation of the tangent line to the graph of f of x equals 1 over x squared at the point with x coordinate x equals 1. So these are important types of questions, and this is very similar to one of the questions in section 10.5, which I said I'll address when we know how to do the derivative exactly. So pay attention to this, make sure you work problems like this, they're important. So first things first, f of x is equal to x to the negative second. Now, it says find the equation of the tangent line to the graph of this function at the point with x coordinate x equals 1. That means first we need to find out what our slope is. Well, remember the slope of the tangent line is your derivative. So you have f prime of x is equal to negative 2 x to the negative third, because that's the derivative of x to the negative second, and that's equal to, rewriting it with the positive exponent, to negative 2 over x cubed. Now, we want to find it at this specific point here. Well, that means we find f prime of x, evaluate it at x equals 1, meaning you plug 1 into your derivative. Well, that gives us negative 2. So now we use point slope, we get y minus 1. Now, this 1 comes from the fact that we know x equals 1. We plug that into our function f of 1, and we get 1 over 1 squared, which is just 1. So that's where this 1 came from. So we get y minus 1 equals, we have our slope, negative 2 times the quantity x minus 1, which it comes from that x coordinate there. So we get y minus 1 equals negative 2x plus 2, or y is equal to negative 2x plus 3. Okay, now we want to move on to the next example. So it says, see the graph of U.S. Math SAT scores as a function of parents' income level on page 835 in number 100. So make sure you look at number 100 in your book on page 835. The regression curve is given by f of x equals negative 0.0034x squared plus 1.2x plus 144, where f of x is the average math SAT score of a student whose parents earn x thousand dollars per year. Find the derivative of f of x and compute f prime of 100. What does the answer say about math SAT scores? All right, let's go for it. F prime of x is equal to negative 0.0034 times 2x, which is the derivative of x squared, plus 1.2 times 1, which is the derivative of x. So, simplifying that, we get negative 0.0068x plus 1.2. Now we need to find f prime of 100. Plug in 100. We get negative 0.68 plus 1.2, which means we get 0.52 points per $1,000 increase in income level. So when it says, what does the answer say about math SAT scores, that means at an income level of $100,000, a student's math SAT score increases at a rate of 0.52 points per $1,000 of additional income. Now, part B says, does f prime of x increase or decrease with increasing x? Again, does f prime of x increase or decrease with increasing x? What does your answer say about math SAT scores? So note that f prime of x is equal to negative 0.0068x plus 1.2. That is a linear function with a negative slope, which means it's decreasing. With increasing x. So that means that a student's math SAT scores increases at a slower rate as her parents' income actually increases. Okay? Now, note, some functions are not differentiable at a point. So if we look at this graph here, this is the graph of y equals the absolute value of x, and that's given by y equals x. If x is greater than or equal to 0, it's negative x. If x is less than 0, that should be strictly less than, not less than or equal to. So let's erase that. So if x is less than 0, and if we differentiate each part of that piecewise function, if we find y prime, that's equal to 1 there and negative 1 there. So note that you have this particular point It's not your function, y equals the absolute value of x, is not differentiable at 0. Okay? So now, if we look at the other graph, this is the graph of y equals x to the 1/3 or the cube root of x. That function, y equals x to the 1/3, if we differentiate it, y prime is equal to 1/3 x to the negative 2/3, or rewritten, that's 1/3, the cubed root of x squared. Well, note that that's undefined at 0, so it's not differentiable there. All right, that's section 11.1, derivatives of power, sums, and constant multiple rules.